writers can and should be making money off of their writing outside of their novels. In fact, there are so many different ways that you can do this that I have full playlists with tons of episodes helping you to build out your streams of revenue so that you can use your skills, your knowledge, and your abilities to make money without having to just do novels. Because we know novels can be a really long process to write and publish and make money from, and there's a lot that goes into it. So you do need these little bursts of extra income and hopefully even some ongoing income from using your skills outside of your novel writing that can also really help to build up your reputation, what you're doing, and how you are going to be getting future writing gigs, both in this individualized sector and within the novel section. So here's the deal. Because there are so many different ways that authors can be making money as multiple streams of revenue, we've got playlists, we've got tons of episodes. We've actually talked about this before, but I want to dial in deep on this one specifically because there is a part of this most people don't think of. So when it comes to this, I have multiple streams of revenue as an author using my writing to make money outside of my novels. I do this by writing articles for publishing websites and publishing magazines. I teach you how to do things in publishing to make more money and to be better at your craft. I do this in the tech space. I do this in the education space. I've done this in tons of different spaces in the photography and videography and in the wedding industries. I write lots of articles, some of which you know about, some of which you will never see. And that is because some of these are going to be more localized. So we talk a lot about writing for websites and blogs and all of those things, and anybody can apply to all of those things, which means it's going to be a little bit of an oversaturated market. It's going to be bigger competition for you. Sure, you can try to write an article on publishing, but that is so oversaturated. There's so many of us who have been in place for a really long time who are learning and educating and trying new things that we're so established that most people are not going to be able to get in because we've already done most of that. You'd be really innovative to now get into a space where you can be a publishing professional and actually teach and get paid to teach on it through other people's blogs and websites and magazines. It's hard to get into that. And I don't want you to have to try to fight for these things. Those are few and far between. So I want you to start looking, of course, outside of the writing space. I told you I write in tech. I write in education. I write in photography and videography. I do a lot of those things because I have the knowledge, the experience, the credentials, the licensing, all of those things. But again, because it's global, a lot of people are jumping into that. So I also have looked local, and this is where your tip comes in, because there are going to be places local to you that are going to be looking for writers. These are going to be magazines that maybe are business magazines or lifestyle magazines local to you. These are maybe different companies who are looking for people to write things for their website, for their blog. And a lot of these are going to be with your name and your byline and all that information, but you also might find some ghostwriting things. I have ghost written for wedding websites before. And my name simply wasn't attached. Nobody else took credit for it. It was just like an article on those websites. And I knocked out like 50 articles for them. And I got paid pretty decent money to do so because I was a longtime wedding photographer. I had a lot of contact with the wedding space. So I was really good at being able to write those articles. And I did that in a capacity that means they got a lot of value out of this and I got paid to write things. So I've also looked at local magazines. There's a local business magazine, a local lifestyle magazine. They're like two different divisions of the same company that brings me in to do freelance articles. And in fact, I'm writing one of those today. I was assigned doing an interview, and that means it's actually even easier for me to write these things. So I get assigned every once in a while for different issues that are printed and distributed in the community. So you can be looking for things that are online and digital. You can be looking for things that are actively printed and distributed in the community. You can look for newspapers, you can look for magazines, you can look for all of these different things, but you think local, because when you think local, they're also looking for local people to do these things. They're not looking on a global scale. So you have less competition. Think about your town, think about your city. How many professional authors are in your space? Truly, a couple, maybe at most. Are they as developed as you? Probably not. So you have a really good opportunity to come in and say, hey, I'm a professional writer. I'm an award-winning author, a best-selling author. I'm a highly published author. I'm a whatever. You can have some descriptions in there and you can say, I would love to be considered for articles. Do you have anything available? And a lot of times these people will just be putting things out. Check their websites, check their social media. In fact, that's how I found out the one that I am writing for very locally. They had put something on their Instagram page saying they were looking for writers. And I said, I could do that. That's easy enough. And so I contacted them. They were very impressed by my massive record as an author and as somebody who does articles for people. And they brought me right in. And I've done quite a few articles for them now. In fact, I've done so many that I've gotten a raise in how much money I am making per article. So you can leverage that local connection because if they need to, they can real life meet with you. If they need to, they can actually assign you something to like go into town and do something, experience something, learn something, do an interview. And you have the ability to go and physically do that, which also means more connections for you and potentially more writing gigs for you. So you can be looking for local magazines, local websites, local vlogs, and do the work for them, both with a byline or in a ghostwriting capacity, whatever's going to work for you, whatever's going to work for them, whatever's going to pay the most, right? Because this is not like you're writing a novel for them. You're writing an article. It's 700 words. It's 500 words. It's 900 words. Not that much. And it's not that deep. So let me give you a couple tips for this one. If you are going to be working for these local companies, make sure you know your value. Make sure it is a decent average for what you are going to be making. Do not take cheap articles just for like $25. We're not doing that. We don't need that kind of pop of money. We want to actually be paid for our work. So understand what that going rate is going to be. And then once you've done a number of things for a company, you discuss being paid more. The company that I am writing for today, was going to wait like another year to bump me up. And I'd already done 5-6 articles for them. And so I advocated for myself. I said, okay, I've already done a couple. It's time to bump that up from that beginning rate. Otherwise, I have other things to do. And I mean, I didn't say this, but they were not paying me as much as some of the other places were paying me. And I could just go over there and write some articles and make more money with less time and effort. Different places are going to require different things. So when I am writing for like author magazines and author websites, that is just me writing informational, educational, conversational articles. I'm not doing interviews. I'm not taking extra time and effort to do those. I'm just writing my knowledge and presenting to people to be able to learn or to be inspired. With this local magazine that I'm writing today, most of these things, all of these things have come with interviews. I have had to stop what I was doing and do interviews with these people, which takes more time and effort. And if you're doing interviews, that is a double-edged sword because in some ways, it makes your life easier and in some ways it makes your life harder. If you have to actually have these conversations with people, it can take a lot of extra time and effort. However, if you're doing interviews with people and you ask 5 to 7 questions and they give you a decent response for each of those, then you have the ability to write less, to come up with less, to be less creative because you are just introducing it and then giving their thoughts. You can copy and paste those quotes. That is 50 words, that is 100 words less that you have to write because they've already done it in their quotes. And I cannot stress enough how important and how valuable it is for you to do this over email. I go out of my way to not have to meet with these people because if I have to do a face-to-face, either over Skype or meeting them face-to-face, I then have to record that audio and go back and listen to it to get the quotes correct. The things that they say have to be directly quoted. And if I'm listening, if I'm having to like write these things down myself, I could mess up or I double my time because I have to go back and find those things. And I don't want to do that. We're being efficient and effective with this. So I do it all through email. Even though I could get in my car, drive 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes to go meet them, go have a great experience, have a great connection. That's a really fun thing to do, but I'm not doubling, tripling, quadrupling my time by going places, by meeting with people. For this particular magazine that I'm working for, the very first one, the first person they assigned me to speak to refused to respond via email. He forced a meeting and then he rambled on for an hour with absolutely nothing that I could use. I even had another author friend of mine go through the notes because we had it directly transcribed so I could go through and try to find something usable. It was awful. It was so bad. So if you can do it via email, that just saves a lot of time, effort, stress, and you can directly copy and paste. And then all you have to do is plug in a couple of quotes right around those things. And then the things that you can't quote, because you can't quote in every single paragraph, you can paraphrase what they've said to highlight the conversation that you were having with them. You don't have to do a ton of work in order to write an effective interview with these people if you were asking 5 to 7 questions and they have decent responses. So that saves you time and effort, but you also have to go through the time and effort of doing that interview, the back and forth, waiting for them to eventually get to you. So it's a lot of stress. So it's that double-edged sword of maybe not. That's all going to have implications on how and what you are being paid for these articles. So start looking locally. See what you can do. Maybe you want to pick up some interviews for a magazine, or maybe you want to tap in with a local business who does articles on their website, but maybe doesn't have a ton of time to do all of those articles. Or maybe you're going to talk to the local newspaper. Maybe you're going to talk to, you can even go to the Chamber of Commerce and say, hey, listen, do you need anything, or do you know somebody who needs something? And put yourself out there as somebody who is a professional writer who can do these things for people, either in an ongoing capacity or just one-off articles. And the more you do this and the more you get yourself out there, the more you're able to pick up. And yes, you can still apply to some of those global things, the virtual online things that are going to be done directly from your home that you have no physical contact with, but it's harder to get into those things. So position yourself as the leader, as the person with all of the opportunity and the availability to write articles locally, and you can see a pretty good stream of income from that, especially as word of mouth gets out and you put yourself out there to get more and more of these placements. Drop your questions down below and make sure you go through the entire playlist where I'm helping you to level up your revenue as an author. I'm going to get back to writing this article. I'm talking about some really interesting ladies who just opened up their own practice here, and their office is purple and pretty and full of Disney things. So I'm going to get back to this interview and get this written and turned in because it is due tomorrow. They gave me a super short deadline, but I want to get your questions answered as well. So now's the time. Drop them in the comments and we'll see you in the upcoming episode.